The word submission means sub and mission, okay? You must have a mission for your life if you want someone to submit and help you with it.
Come on, somebody.
If you have a problem with your wife respecting you and honoring you and getting behind you and all these things, I'll ask you, what's your mission? Why would somebody follow you?
Pastor Jabin talked about seeds and that we are gardens. And I believe one of the things that God has created to be a garden, and that the fruit of that garden would be a representation of his glory, is the picture, idea, and context of marriage.
Yeah, I think there's so many thoughts with it. You know, we got married young. I proposed when she was 19 or 20, and, you know, I was 23 when I proposed, and we got married very quickly a year later. And
Life hack, by the way, get married young.
yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It really is.
Who got married young, like early 20s? There we go.
Well, and people will tell you not to get married young, but it has just been amazing.
Yeah, and I'll just say, like, for us, even when we got married young, we had clear expectations. You know, I heard when she was interviewing Angie and Ari that, like, you know, they're very clear on what they want. And I was very clear when we started dating too. I was like, I'm not here to mess around and date. Like, I'm here to find a wife, you know? And I was clear on, you know, what I wanted to do, you know, how we wanted to honor God.
Where did you get that clarity from?
Well, you know, I grew up in the church. I didn't talk a lot about my testimony. I kind of talked about my adult life and maturing, but I mean, I grew up in the church. You know, I grew up here in Las Vegas in Sin City, and a lot of, born and raised. So I went to a church called Shadow Hills for about 20 years. And many people, like, I just grew up wanting to follow God. And obviously I wasn't perfect, but I was like, dude, I'm going to do this the right way. You know, I'm not going to mess around and do all these things that I could do. But, you know, long story short, I was clear with her when we started dating what I wanted. And a lot of people don't even know this, but Mindy was my first, like, official real girlfriend too. Yeah. And I could get girls, okay? I could have got girls. It's not like I was forced into this situation, okay?
I just was a total package. He didn't even need to look anywhere else. Okay?
Yeah.
That's good. Let's go.
But, you know, I was clear. And then we got pre-marriage counseling over there, and it was great. And you know, one of the things we read was the 5 love languages.
Good.
Great book for people, and it helped me understand, like, oh, she wants love a different way than how I want it.
Yeah.
I just want physical love. And that's not her thing. Okay, like, how do we, I thought everybody thought like I thought, but no, that's not what marriage is. And, you know, eventually, I'm thankful we got married young because we got to grow and develop together.
That's good.
Not only in faith, but in business and everything. Like, we were broke.
Right.
We didn't have any money when we got married. And I see a lot of young people today, or even, they're not young anymore.
It's crazy.
They were broke, and they're like, I'm gonna wait till I'm married, and guess what? You're still broke. You're still broke.
Yeah.
And it's like, guess what? Didn't work out.
Yeah.
And now, guess what? It's a little harder to get married at this point in life.
I think it's because there's a misconception to feel that you need to arrive to a perfect place. You don't get fit, then go to the gym. No, you decide that, you know, you're gonna commit to something, and then you just stick to your word.
Yeah, and I think that it's part of what I talked about earlier today of, like, stepping out in faith. You don't need all the resources and everything perfectly packaged today.
Yeah.
Yet for some reason we think that that's the case in marriage. Trust me, we both were like works in progress. We both like to tell each other we had a lot of potential. Okay?
Total potential.
Yeah, and we've had to, like, really refine each other throughout this process.
Good.
Well, that's the beautiful thing too, is, like, I think there's a stipulation of, like, oh, well, if we get married young, we're going to grow apart, right? We're going to grow certain ways, and I don't want to do that, or I don't want to change, or I don't want him to change, or whatever it is. But I really feel that it's such a beautiful thing to watch someone you love, like, get to the next level,
So good.
right? And help them do that. And so there's not this, you're going to grow apart, you're going to grow together, you're going to uplift each other when one needs you, and when you need them to help you, you know, there's so much beauty in just
that.
leveling up together.
So as a business owner myself, the life of an entrepreneur is not an easy life. And you have several businesses, and you have so many employees. I think the question I want to ask is how we all have 24 hours in the day, but how do you practically still prioritize the home? And do you bring work home? How do you balance what you want to process with Mindy as far as business decisions versus keeping her, not involving her? How do you walk that area?
Yeah, I think every relationship is going to have their own uniqueness, right? I'm fortunate that Mindy doesn't care to like know every little detail about every little thing. If you saw my presentation earlier, I'm like, I don't know the details, I just do stuff. And she knows that too. And from track record, she just knows that when I make a decision or I'm excited about something, she's going to be excited with me, you know? And I think with balancing it all, it just comes down to having priorities and having a standard. You know, earlier this morning when I talked about the morning and Jesus waking up early to spend time with the Father, it's like, that's just a standard. All of us could choose to do it. We don't, there's no excuse. We just decide whether we're gonna make it a priority or not. And so for me, it's like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how can I be successful in business, but also still spend time with my Creator, spend time with my family, be a good husband, be a good dad, stay in shape. And I have to just time block it out. And guess what? You know, for me, that became, hey, 9 to 5, that's when I wanna work. I don't wanna work the weekends. I'm gonna figure out how to make it happen within this parameter I've set for myself. And if I don't get all my work done, I need to level up as a business owner. I was inefficient. And if it means less money, it means less money. But I've kind of had that same attitude the last 10 years, whether I was broke or whether, you know, we've had a lot.
Yeah. You know, the biblical model of a marriage is that the man leads the home spiritually. But as someone who's also been married, bringing ideas home that I think are good, but then Amanda is like, no. How do you process disagreement?
Hey, by the way, today's Omar's anniversary.
Yeah,
And he's here interviewing.
He's here.
us.
How did that decision go?
No, it's good, man. You know, I just got to be home by 5. You know.
Hey, you know what, dude? I told you this backstage, but you should take her out for a concert. It's on me tonight at 5:30. You know.
Jordan Felice
Yeah,
headlining.
there's this concert. There's dinner. It'll be great.
All right, I'll try to sell it. But there is this like it's true though, you know, that sometimes the spouse it's also the Holy Spirit's in our spouse as well.
Yeah.
And I just want to know how you practically process disagreement from something that maybe you feel strong about, but she's strong about, and how do you just, I'm not just saying this to say it's a Bible word, but submit.
That's really good. You know, full submission is not this like thing where you're like, okay, well, whatever you say goes and that's it, and I'm not gonna give any opinion or anything. But, you know, he talked about track record of like, one, I know your values, I know who you pray to, right? I know you are biblically sound. And so the submission part is him making a decision and me like lifting that decision up with him, right? It's not just like, okay, well, my opinion doesn't matter. It's, no, I trust you. And even if I don't agree, and I will say that I don't agree, but I will add a but to it. Hey, if you think that this is right for our family, if you have prayed about it, if you are rooted in the Bible and know that God is leading you and it's on your heart, I'm not questioning God. I'm not going to answer and be like, oh, well, I told Ryan not to do this, and I knew that God was like on his heart. I'm going to deny myself and say, hey, I'm supporting you. I am submitting to the mission together. Just because you are making this decision doesn't mean that my value or opinion goes out the window. And, you know, and there have been times where he's like, well, what do you think about this? And I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's a good idea. And it works both ways of like him being, you know what, yeah, you're right. It's probably not a good idea. Like, thanks for that, you know? And so it's not this like one over the other in a sense. It's just how we trust and love and value each other and where we know that we're rooted.
So good.
Yeah, and I think whenever I have an idea or something like that.
Well, I say that it's my idea.
Yeah, she probably had planted a seed somewhere, like Jabin was saying.
Whispering at night, hey, start this business.
But I, for me, whenever I have an idea, she knows what I do when I have an idea. I don't just Like there's so much process that goes through it before I'm ever willing to present it to the world or for feedback or anything else. Like I've gone through it in my head, like what could go wrong? What could go right? What's the risk? What's the reward? And all those things. So by the time I'm willing to publicly say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing, I've kind of thought through it very well. I would also say that back to submission, I heard this from a pastor, I don't remember where, but the word submission, a lot of guys are like, man, dude, my wife doesn't submit, she doesn't respect me and everything else, right? I got a news flash for you, dude. The word submission means sub and mission, okay? You must have a mission for your life if you want someone to submit and help you with it.
Come on, somebody.
Okay?
Preach.
So if you have a problem with your wife respecting you and honoring you and getting behind you and all these things, I'll ask you, what's your mission? Why would somebody follow you? Right? If I can't get behind you and what you're doing, why should she? Right? Anyways.
That's fire. One more time. That's awesome. So good.
Okay.
I've seen you guys parent. Thanks also for taking my family to Disneyland. They hooked us up.
We took them on the VIP too.
Let's
yeah, we
go,
did the
let's
VIP
go.
trip. If you want to,
So fun.
dude, just get some rich friends and then they'll take you. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm serious.
Let's try
Nope.
to go again.
But you guys have 3 kids, and yet I see how consistent you are at dating. I feel like that's always been personally our challenge, because now we've got little ones, and I know you talked about priorities, but can you talk about a practical way or like a few handles, like how are you able to really keep that date night consistent?
I would call it, or we call it like our non-negotiables. So it's just a conversation that you have of like, hey, this is what I want our 5 to 9 p.m. to look like, right? Or our Friday nights to look like. I'm going to commit. I want you to commit. And I mean, it takes work to actually do it, right? You have to be so intentional with the time that you choose. And so, with kids, and this, like you feel like you have no time. And we talk about it all the time. We're like, what do we do before kids? I mean, do we just like sit around? I don't even know, because we're like begging for 7 p.m. to come. And, but, with dating, we both want to date. And I want to model that for my children too. I don't want my kids to not feel love and, see that their parents don't love each other or that their parents can't make time for each other, right? Because my kids will know that God is the priority of our house and my husband is next. Our marriage is the next priority, and then they will come after that. And if I don't model that through my actions, if I don't model that through date night or through reading my Bible or whatever it is, then they're not going to believe if I just tell them, oh yeah, date your spouse. Like it's, they have to actually see the model that I'm setting for them.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? Like I see a lot of parents who, they make their kids like number one, right? And they kind of fall into this false ideology of like, man, dude, little Jimmy, I gotta just get him to the top and like, I'm gonna devote all my time and resource. I grew up in sports. I saw it a lot with dads and their kids. Like I know it, right? And the truth is that's not biblical, right? The biblical definition of what your priorities are, first and foremost, God, second most, our marriage, then third most, our children, right? Yeah. And so I can't just be making my children all of a sudden the top because for whatever reason the world has told you like, yeah, dude, your kids and this. It's like, no, dude, like first God, then our marriage, then my kids.
That's good. I love it. Like Pastor Jamin actually taught on like once like Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom and then all these things would be added unto you. And I know we see it like a list. We see it like God, then. When really what you mean is core.
Right.
Because out of the core of God being the center, like Mindy is one, because I also think that could be a misconception of people who over spiritualize their walk with the Lord at the expense of their marriage.
Yeah.
And it isn't first and then it's actually core, and out of the overflow you get to share in that.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's so good.
By the way, shout out to Brian and Jessica. They have a lady who shows up at like 6 p.m. every Friday, rain or shine. And sometimes it's like, oh,
I guess we're
she's
going.
here.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they go grocery shopping because they didn't really make a dinner plan or something. So, but it's like, it's cool, like a freestanding date. And it's been so cool to see how you guys prioritize that. And then thank you for sharing it because we get to see that there's no excuses, man. We all have 24 hours in the day. What are you guys most excited about in the next 10 years? You guys have been married for 10 years. What's the next 10 look like? You little lovebirds.
I mean, she'll tell you, if you would have told us all these things would be happening 5 years ago, we'd have been like, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't planning that. I wasn't. She wasn't. We weren't, like, none of it. I mean, 5 years ago, we were just having kids. But now we got 3. You know, we're doing this. We're doing so many things now. Like, so I hate to try and impose my will and not leave room for what God could do. Right?
That's good.
So I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, literally everything you said. I don't even know how I can do that. But I mean, it's just funny when I try to plan things, you know, and I'm not talking about like, what am I doing tomorrow or what am I doing even a year from now? Like, it's good to have goals, right? It's good to have a mission. But if I'm like, okay, well, 5 years, I want to make sure we're here, or like 10 years, I want to make sure we're here, God just really checks me so quickly and so easy of like, that's your will, swerve, you know, and he'll just like throw a wrench in a good way of, no, that's not what I have for you. And so, you know, it is important to plan and have goals, but at the end of the day, like both of our mission is to just be obedient to whatever that is, however uncomfortable or comfortable it is. Like, I do not, well, now I like speaking on stage, but I didn't before. But it was funny because he would plant the seed, like even years and years ago, like, you need to do this, like, you need to speak. And I'm like, no, I like being behind the camera. I like being behind the keys. Like, don't put me out there. And it's so crazy. Like, God will just change you from the inside out of like, he will change your desires and everything. But if you don't leave room for that and you're just in your own will and your own way, then God cannot work because you're blocking him. So
Beautiful.
We're going to just do whatever
Amazing. Let's give it up for Ryan and Mindy Pineda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Awesome.